Papanui-Innes-Central, come board.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. I would like to start off by acknowledging the mahi that has gone in so far to get the long-term plan to this point. We know that staff and councillors have put many hours work into this draft, and we thank you for that. A special acknowledgement must also go out to the engagement team for their efforts. It's not easy trying to package this massive beast that is the LTP into something the general public can digest, understand and engage with, and we think you've done a great job. Our submission is based on our 2023 to 2025 Waipapa Papanui-Innes-Central Community Board Plan and shouldn't contain any surprises. We're just going to highlight some of the main points from our submission and we'll hopefully have time for questions. We all know how challenging things are for our residents and businesses at the moment. We hear about it and read about it every day, and we know that the proposed rates rise is going to be tough on many. We urge you to keep that at the forefront of your minds throughout this decision-making process. Our board supports keeping the rates increase as low as possible, whilst also ensuring that our needs as a city are still met. In general, we are supportive of the proposed capital program and the focus on deliverability and renewing and replacing existing assets.
In the What Matters Most early engagement, residents in our board area prioritise the following as being most important to them: climate change and climate resilience, drinking water, roads and footpaths, travel choice, parks and gardens. As a board, we also wish to highlight community development and community funding. The mahi of both our council staff and also of community groups plays a key role in helping our city flourish. As a board, we get insights into this, while it may go unseen by some members of the public. And that might be why community development doesn't feature highly in the What Matters Most engagement. In our board plan, we support transport initiatives which promote walking, cycling and using public transport. We support the provision in this draft LTP for the completion of works along the Northern Line route and also for cycle connections associated with the Northern Line. There is consistent community demand for implementation of the planned Northern Line crossing upgrades, especially the signalised crossings for Herwood Road and Langdons Road. Parents and caregivers concerned for the safety of their children, as well as local school principals, tell us that this cycleway and the improvement of these crossings is especially relevant to encouraging students to cycle to school. We reaffirm our support for the Wheels to Wings Papanui ki Waiwhetu cycleway and support the provision in the draft LTP for the cycle route. Our ambition is also for the Richmond Neighbourhood Greenway cycleway to be fully completed, including the section that was to be funded by the Transport Choices or SURF Fund, as well as the Craft section north of North Avon Road.
You've heard us speak before on the issues affecting the transport network around Papanui, and we would like to reiterate the need for investment in this increasingly intensified area. At our April board meeting, we heard from students from St Bede's and Marion College about the dangers of Northcote Road, and we've granted $100,000 of our board's Better Off funding towards safety improvement investigations for the stretch between Main North Road and the railway. It is disappointing to see that the Northcote Road Corridor Improvement Project, for which over $15 million was budgeted, has dropped off this draft LTP completely. This project had been on budget for over 10 years, but kept getting pushed out. So to see it drop off now when the corridor has gotten so much busier with the nearby developments is worrying. You've heard Jason and Bridget from our neighbouring board talk about the nearby Greer's Northcote Sawyers Arms intersection, and our board joins them in asking for this project to be reinstated. We are pleased to see the budget retained in the draft for the downstream effects management plan, noting that work to mitigate the effects of the Christchurch Northern Corridor is ongoing. We are also supportive of the funding set aside for the Cranford Regeneration Project and hope that a big picture view of the traffic impacts of this new development will be adopted. You'll also see mentioned in our submission our support for a trial of the Central City Shuttle service.
We advocate for community facilities, green space and amenities in areas of high current and future intensification, with SEPTED principles considered on appropriate projects. Draft LTP appears to substantially reduce funding for the Papanui Ward recreation and youth spaces, although it might be that these budgets have been absorbed into a parent program. In the 2021 LTP, the Council resolved to specify this project, known at the time as the Papanui Skate Facility, as a separate line item, and we do ask for this to be reinstated for clarity. On the other hand, it is positive to see the provision in later years of the draft LTP for library facilities to support population growth in Papanui Ward. A recent grant from the board to Papanui Youth Development Trust for a youth community safety project is an example of the importance of community funding as an enabler in line with our board plan and the Strengthening Communities Together strategy.
In the next couple of months, our community board is going to be making a decision on how to utilise the funding which is on budget for a community facility at Shirley Community Reserve, the site of the old Shirley Community Centre. This decision will have been a long time coming, with the original centre being demolished in 2012, and we are supportive of the funding having been retained in this draft LTP. We do request, however, that the initial funding to kickstart the project is brought forward into the next financial year. Similarly, we are pleased to see the funding for the Phillipstown Community Hub retained in the draft. This gathering space is the beating heart of the Phillipstown community and home to a number of community organisations. The hub has short-term security through a lease with the Ministry of Education, but this LTP funding will secure its long-term future. Flooding continues to be an issue in different parts of our board area and is a priority in our community board plan, so we are supportive of the investment in this draft LTP proposes in maintaining and improving our stormwater and drainage networks. We are particularly supportive of the proposal to establish a program to resolve regular surface flooding and would like to see streets around McFarlane Park, St Albans Park and those in Edgware Village prioritised within this.
The board supports the goals of the Otatahi Christchurch Climate Resilience Strategy. In the What Matters Most early engagement, climate change was the top or near top priority for each of the wards in our board area. And accordingly, we do offer our support for the acceleration of adaptation planning and also for the option to create a climate resilience fund.
So to sum up, we support the draft LTP's efforts in getting the basics right. The focus on maintaining roads and footpaths, prioritising investment in the three waters, and planning for functional, flourishing communities. As a board with a number of areas already experiencing or planned for major intensification, we support investing in the amenities needed to make them safe, vibrant communities. Please ensure as you go through this challenging decision-making process that you keep people at the forefront of your minds, not just those living and working here today, but also the generations to come. We need investment in our city's future, but at a cost that is still affordable for today's ratepayers. Thanks.
Wonderful. Sarah, please, and then Aaron.
Kia ora kōrua, thanks so much for that. You've mentioned the removal of the Climate Emergency Response funding of the Transport Choices projects. Many of those are kind of safety related and getting kids to school and the Richmond Greenway and stuff. Would you support council going ahead with those projects anyway, even if they don't then get Waka Kotahi funding, being that Waka Kotahi funding is likely to be cut for those types of projects as well?
It's not something we've specifically discussed as a board, but our community board plan does support those initiatives, especially around the safety.
Yeah,
thank you.
It would be up to us to decide how to fund them. Yeah.
Thank you. Aaron, please.
Yeah, so you mentioned in your submission that reducing congestion and traffic flows is a great way to increase safety, but your board has unwavering support for wheels to wings, yet in advocating for your community, the majority of the community don't support. In fact, there was a survey yesterday on the Bishopdale page and 700 said no, 100 said yes, which is a 7-to-1. It's quite clear.
The view I've formed on that is based on submissions through the 2 rounds of public consultation, in which, as perhaps we've discussed before, the minority of submitters opposed, others suggested changes or were within support.
Factually incorrect, majority opposed.
Okay, you have one.
To that.
Okay, right. That's very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we move on to Horswell